Let's take a few minutes to talk about IT governance. When we say governance, we mean doing the right things and doing things right in terms of efficiency, effectiveness, and compliance of IT infrastructure. We're going to touch on four main topics today. Firstly, some pointers on licensing and licensing terminology, then the importance of maintaining software, a reminder about IT infrastructure and things to do or look out for, and lastly, some words on software compliance. So what exactly is a license? What does it mean to purchase a license? A license is a right to use. Licensed programs are licensed, not sold. This is the terminology in the end user license agreement. This applies to all commercial software. Unless you receive the source code, you don't own the software, you own the right to use the software. The topic of software licensing is fairly complex, so we'll try and keep it simple this time around. For example, the actual license mechanism could be a serial code, as in the case with SOLIDWORKS Desktop, or cloud-based network licenses, as in the case of 3D Experience SOLIDWORKS. There are a few types of licenses, and we'll address them in conjunction with their special acronyms called trigrams. The most common license type from SOLIDWORKS Desktop perspective is perpetual license, PLC perpetual license charge. A perpetual license is always sold with the first year's annual maintenance or service fee, called ALC, included. Erroneously, this means it was a mistake, the annual maintenance was referred to as subs or subscription in the past. It will take time for people to stop saying subs, but we need to unlearn this habit. The next type of license is called a term license. Term means fixed time period, either yearly term or quarterly term, designated by YLC and QLC respectively. You can think of this like renting a license instead of buying a license. Once the term is up, the software stops working. When we talk about software as a service or cloud-based solutions like 3D Experience, the same license types exist, but they are referred to as PSC, ASC, YSC, and QSC respectively. The S stands for service instead of L for license, because in the case of software as a service, you not only pay for the license to use the software, but also the underlying hardware that is the cloud infrastructure. By default, all software as a service type licenses auto-renew, and so are technically subscriptions. There's that word again. They keep going until you explicitly request to stop. There's typically a 30 days notice period before the end date. You can think of this as a similar concept to something like Netflix, for example. There will be some changes coming in 2023 from DASO's side, subject to be confirmed, but which we can address once we have absolute certainty. Secondly, why it's important to stay up to date. Why maintain your software? What does it include? Firstly, it includes software updates and service packs or hotfixes. There are a number of fixes or patches or updates that come out during the life of a specific release of software. These are due typically to a few main reasons. 1. A bug was found and it's being corrected. Or 2. Something that was planned but didn't quite make it into the final version has now been finished, like a new feature or enhancement. Or there's an operating system change, think Windows 10 to Windows 11, or some other hectic operating system patch that affects the software. Maintenance services like telephonic and online support, access to communities, forums, user groups, all the DASO and SOLIDWORKS websites like mysolidworks.com, which has tutorials, for example, access to free CAD models using Part Supply website. You also get service granted software like CAM Standard or Visualize Standard. These are either add-ons to SOLIDWORKS like CAM Standard or standalone programs like Visualize Standard, which give you extra capabilities that are not in the core SOLIDWORKS program. So what if you don't pay? Well, the software keeps working, but everything else you had access to, including that service activated software, will stop. Getting back on maintenance is pretty simple. Just pay the back maintenance fee and the maintenance going forward. Let's talk about IT infrastructure. Even if you outsource your IT, it's still your responsibility. You're responsible for every machine or device that is connected to your network, including cell phones and tablets, whether it's from employees, suppliers, or guests on your network. So make sure you have an airtight IT policy. This does and can come back to bite you in terms of license usage and piracy. We have seen this many times before. It's not something you can just hand off to somebody else. In terms of hardware and software requirements, keep an eye on what is a prerequisite. Use the right operating system. Windows 11 was only supported on SOLIDWORKS 2022 from Service Pack 2 onwards. Some people went to Windows 11 too soon and ended up with some issues. For example, you can find the system requirements at these two locations depending on your version of SOLIDWORKS. Let's talk about a few specific hardware components. RAM is pretty simple, 16 GB minimum these days. There's a general rule of thumb for CPU and RAM purchases, which is get as much as you can afford on the day of purchase so that the PC or laptop has longevity. Obviously, if you're doing things like simulations and other analyses, you need at least 32 GB, but 64 or more is actually better. The critical issue from a hardware perspective is the graphics card or GPU. GeForce cards process graphics differently to Quadro cards. This is a known thing in the industry. It's because of OpenGL versus DirectX. It's also a performance and speed issue versus correctness and stability issue. CAD GPUs must have precision, as this impacts things like tolerances and weight calculations, not to mention the results from FEA simulations. On a security side, yes, have an antivirus for sure, a firewall, anti-malware, anti-spyware. Just make sure it does not interfere with your daily operation software like your CAD software and other legal software that you have. Keep up to date with the Microsoft security patches, because the new versions of SOLIDWORKS, for example, take this into account. Optimization means the right hardware and software combination with the right settings and the right resources assigned. Software is not just the CAD program, but also middleware like Java, for example, and of course the critical drivers, specifically when it comes to GPU. Clean up your cache and other cyber crap like temporary files regularly. Pay attention to the supported operating system level, the Java level, the browser release code. These things do change over time and they can influence your experience. Lastly, let's talk about license compliance. Piracy is the hacking or cracking of a license mechanism to essentially use a commercial piece of software for free. Did you know that just trying to circumvent the locking mechanism is an offense, even if you didn't get it right? So keep your nose clean. Non-compliant usage is, for example, the commercial use of a student or educational license. So using a license that was intended for one thing for something else. Using a license in a country that is different to the country that the license was purchased in. So for example, using a license you bought in South Africa in a country like Nigeria is technically also non-compliant usage. Licenses are also non-transferable. You can't resell your license to somebody else. It's a license to use a piece of software. It is not the piece of software for you to use or sell to somebody else. This is all in the end user license agreement. Let's talk about stolen goods and being complacently complicit. If you bought a Ferrari for 395 Rand online, would you really think it was the real deal, a real Ferrari, or a Ferrari that was obtained in a legal manner? CAD software is not a toy car. It's a complex tool intended ultimately to provide you with a revenue generating mechanism. R395 does not get you a legal copy of a CAD tool. It gets you the very real threat of being caught and all the legal stuff that comes with criminal activity. Yes, people, cracked software, whether you bought it or cracked it yourself, is a crime. Cracked software opens you up to further cybercrime attacks. It's like leaving the door open to malware, spyware, and other hacking threats. The Business Software Alliance survey results support the fact that cracks are tightly linked to malware. Beside the legal risks, there are reputational risks. If you are outed as a pirate, no one will trust you. Cracked software is an unfair and illegal advantage over compliant businesses. Remember, cracking software or purchasing cracked software counts the same legally. There is a new Cybercrimes Act in South Africa that came into law in December 2021, and cybercrimes can carry up to 15 years in jail. Check us out on LinkedIn or YouTube for more content on SOLIDWORKS, Mastercam, and 3D Experience.